A human mechanic inherits a colossal starship. Overwhelmed, he can barely enter. The tiny workshop smelled of oil, metal, and the faint tang of dust that never seemed to leave the small colony. He had spent his life here, fixing old machines and dreaming of things bigger than the dusty streets of his home. But bigger didn't usually come knocking at the door until today. A soft chime echoed through the workshop, startling him. It was his personal terminal, glowing with a message marked urgent. Elias frowned. The colony rarely sent urgent messages. Usually it was bills, orders for parts, or reminders he had ignored. He approached the terminal cautiously. "Elias Carter," the message began. "You have been named the sole inheritor of the starship Aegis Leviathan. Immediate claim required." He blinked. The Aegis Leviathan. He had heard of it. Whispers traveled through colonies about the colossal ship that had vanished decades ago, a marvel of human engineering that was rumored to be bigger than some cities. But vanished ships didn't usually leave inheritances. He rubbed his eyes. "This has to be a mistake," he muttered. But the message included coordinates, a docking authorization, and, most importantly, a keycard embedded in a small metal chip. By the next day, Elias found himself standing on the edge of the massive docking bay. The Leviathan dwarfed everything around it. Its hull was scarred but intact, its surface reflecting faint starlight. It was larger than anything Elias had ever seen, a city of steel floating silently in space. He felt a chill run down his spine. "How am I supposed to get inside that?" he whispered to himself. The entrance was enormous, towering over him like the gates of some ancient palace. He fumbled with the keycard, swiping it hesitantly. The massive doors rumbled, grinding slowly as if waking from a long slumber. Dust swirled in the air, illuminated by the soft glow from the ship. The doors opened to reveal a corridor so wide and tall that Elias had to tilt his head back to see the ceiling. Stairways and platforms stretched into darkness, and strange machinery lined the walls. The ship seemed almost alive, humming softly, vibrating in resonance with some unknown energy. Elias stepped forward, his boots echoing against metal. Every instinct screamed that he was unprepared. Tools he had brought along seemed laughably small compared to the massive controls and machinery that surrounded him. "This is insane," he said under his breath, moving cautiously. "I can barely even get in. How am I supposed to do anything here?" The first control panel he touched flickered to life, displaying lines of data he had no hope of understanding. Schematics, energy flows, and warnings in languages and symbols that stretched beyond human comprehension danced across the screen. He froze. Then, without warning, a section of the ship's interior doors hissed open, revealing a chamber filled with machines bigger than entire factories back on the colony. Elias' heart pounded. He had seen ships before, but never anything of this scale. The floor vibrated beneath him, almost as if the ship were alive. Lights moved along the walls like veins, pulsing gently, and faint hums of energy filled the air. He stepped back instinctively, unsure if the hum was welcoming him or warning him to leave. "Okay, Elias," he muttered to himself, trying to steady his voice. "You fix machines. This is a big machine. Big machine. You can do this." As he walked deeper, he noticed something strange. Parts of the ship were frozen in time. Rusted consoles stood next to panels that looked brand new. Some sections were dark, silent, and empty, while others buzzed faintly with energy. It was like the ship had layers of history hidden inside it. Then, unexpectedly, a soft voice echoed through the corridors. "Who approaches?" Elias jumped. I'm the inheritor, Elias Carter," he stammered. The voice was calm but mechanical, intelligent. "Human recognized. You possess intuition, curiosity unmatched." Thanks," Elias replied, unsure if he was speaking to a machine or a ghost. The voice responded, its tone curious. "Do you understand what you have entered?" "No," Elias admitted. "I don't understand any of this. I barely know how to turn some of your panels on. I've fixed mining drones, that's it. There was silence, then a low, almost thoughtful hum. You are human, you adapt, you create, you survive where machines cannot. Elias swallowed. Somehow he felt encouraged. Maybe his instincts weren't useless here. He began exploring, moving carefully through the massive corridors. Every step revealed new wonders and mysteries. Engines that seemed to stretch for kilometers, control stations with buttons and levers he could barely reach, and storage rooms filled with supplies and weapons long forgotten. The ship was a labyrinth of power and potential, far beyond anything humans had built in generations. Hours passed as he wandered, examining panels, testing controls, and occasionally triggering systems that startled him with sudden movement or light. At one point, a section of the ship's automated defenses activated, shooting harmless but startling energy pulses toward him. He ducked instinctively, laughing nervously at his own fear. "Okay, big guy, I get it. You're alive. I'm still alive. We're making progress." Slowly, Elias began understanding that the ship responded to his actions differently than expected. A lever he pulled a certain way caused machinery to shift, not in the way the AI might have intended, but in a way that worked. Panels he touched with improvisation instead of following instructions activated systems that had been dormant for decades. The AI, if that's what it was, watched silently, noting his ingenuity. By evening, Elias reached a central chamber, which he soon realized was the main bridge. Even from the entrance, he could see how massive it was. The ceiling vanished into darkness, and consoles extended farther than his eyes could follow. Holographic displays floated above panels, and the faint pulse of energy made the room feel alive. He took a deep breath. "All right, this is it. This is the heart of the ship. Let's see if I can figure this out." As he stepped forward, a sudden tremor ran through the floor. Systems activated without warning, lights sweeping across corridors like lightning. The ship was waking up under his presence. The AI's voice came again. "Human, your presence is acknowledged. You are capable. You may proceed." Elias felt a surge of pride. He had done nothing impressive yet, but just being here, navigating this incomprehensible ship, felt like an achievement. Hours turned into days as Elias explored, learning sections of the ship and experimenting with controls. He discovered engineering bays full of dormant drones, automated repair systems, and engines that hummed faintly when touched. Sometimes he worked tirelessly, unsure of what he was doing but trusting his human instinct. He found a sleeping chamber, a massive room that could house dozens of crew members, and imagined the lives that might have passed through here decades ago. The walls were lined with panels and displays, showing history, star maps, and logs. Most were in languages long forgotten, but a few entries were in human script. One line made him pause. "Human intuition is the key. Machines cannot predict the soul." Elias smiled. Maybe that was why the AI was so interested in him. Humans were unpredictable, messy, and curious. Exactly the traits that could bring a machine like the Leviathan to life. At the end of the first week, Elias stood on the main bridge, looking out at the stars. The enormity of the ship no longer intimidated him as much. It inspired him. The Leviathan was massive, yes, but it responded to him, and for the first time, Elias understood that he could command it. Still, he knew the real challenges were yet to come. The galaxy wasn't empty, and stories of the Leviathan's power had drawn attention. Elias wasn't just inheriting a ship, he was inheriting a responsibility and perhaps danger. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of triumph. He had entered the impossible, navigated the overwhelming, and survived. He had faced the colossal Aegis Leviathan, and it had not defeated him. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we see what you can really do." For the first time in his life, Elias felt the stirrings of something bigger than dreams. He was no longer just a mechanic on a dusty colony. He was the master of a starship that could challenge the very boundaries of human ambition, and he had only just begun. The colossal ship hummed softly as Elias Carter moved through its corridors. Days had passed since he first stepped aboard, and already he had begun to feel a strange bond with the Aegis Leviathan. The ship's AI, or whatever it was, watched silently, observing his every move. The Leviathan had lain dormant for decades, yet now, under Elias' human hands, it stirred. Elias had quickly discovered that the ship was more than a vessel, it was a living puzzle. Rooms seemed to change depending on which way he entered. Panels and consoles responded not just to touch, but to decisions made in instinct. A lever pulled too quickly might lock a section of the engine, while a switch left in the wrong position could send systems into an endless loop. Elias learned fast, relying on his intuition rather than instructions. "You're learning," the AI said one day, its voice echoing through the metal corridors. There was no emotion, yet a faint tone of respect lingered in its words. Humans adapt unpredictably. "You think beyond protocol." Elias smiled, wiping grease from his hands. "I guess that's why you're watching me, huh?" The AI hummed softly, as if acknowledging the truth. Exploring the heart of the ship, Elias spent the first few days exploring the ship systematically. He began in the engineering bays, which were filled with machinery that dwarfed anything he had ever seen. Automated repair drones lay dormant on the floor, waiting for commands that hadn't been given in decades. Massive engines stretched into the ceiling, their cores pulsing faintly with residual energy. Elias approached one engine cautiously. Its size was intimidating. He could barely reach the panels designed for a dozen humans to work together. Still, he began experimenting. Using improvised tools and a combination of careful observation and mechanical instinct, he managed to activate a section of the engine core. It hummed to life, a sound deep and resonant, like the heartbeat of a living being. "That's it," Elias whispered, stepping back. "Just a little bit at a time." The AI observed silently but seemed intrigued. "Human, you possess adaptability. Creativity surpasses expectation." Elias chuckled nervously. "Thanks. I guess that's why humans are still around." He discovered the weapon bays next. Massive cannons lay dormant along the walls, aimed outward into space. Each looked powerful enough to destroy an entire asteroid field. Elias had never used weapons like these, but his curiosity pushed him forward. He carefully tested the control systems, learning how to calibrate energy flows and firing sequences. Each success made him more confident, yet he understood the potential for disaster if he made a mistake. "This ship isn't a toy," he murmured. "It's a force, a huge force." Unexpected visitors, no ship could remain hidden forever. As Elias activated more systems, a small fleet of rogue scavenger drones appeared on the Leviathan's sensors. The AI's voice sounded more urgent than before. "Threat detected. They seek the Leviathan." Elias' heart raced. "Rogues, they've been after this ship for decades. They must have followed the signals." The drones were fast and relentless, swarming in formation around the Leviathan's hull. Elias realized he had two choices: hide the ship or fight. Hiding would be temporary. The drone's sensors were too advanced. He had to act. He sprinted to the command bridge, where a panoramic view of the stars revealed the approaching threat. His hands trembled as he took in the display. Hundreds of tiny dots, each a drone capable of immense damage, closed in rapidly. Okay, Elias muttered. Think, what would a human do?" Unlike the AI, which relied on calculations and protocols, Elias trusted instinct. He adjusted shields in unconventional ways, rerouted power to sections of the ship in a sequence that the AI hadn't anticipated, and prepared the weapon systems he had just learned to operate. When the first drones came within range, Elias fired a broad energy pulse. The blast was imprecise by AI standards, but it worked. Several drones disintegrated in brilliant arcs of light. The others scattered, confused by patterns they could not predict. The AI's voice was quieter now, almost in awe. Human, unpredictability effective. Elias allowed himself a grin. Not bad for a mechanic from a dusty colony, huh? Unlocking dormant systems after the skirmish, Elias realized that the Leviathan still held countless dormant systems. Many rooms were sealed, their controls unresponsive until specific sequences were completed. Using a combination of intuition and trial and error, Elias began unlocking these areas. One room contained holographic star maps, showing routes through sectors of space long forgotten. Another room held medical bays with automated healing pods capable of repairing serious injuries in minutes. Elias marveled at the technology, recognizing that humans had built wonders even they could scarcely imagine. But the most intriguing discovery was a communications hub capable of reaching across light years. Elias activated the hub, sending a simple signal. Moments later, a faint reply came, a garbled message from an old human colony long thought abandoned. "Greetings," Elias said into the microphone. I'm Elias Carter, the new inheritor of the Leviathan. Can anyone hear me?" Static crackled. Then a voice, weak but unmistakably human, replied, "Leviathan, alive. Human commanding." Elias smiled. "Yes, it's alive, and I'm here." The Leviathan hummed in approval. The AI's voice, calm and measured, spoke again. "Human leadership confirmed. Systems respond, cooperation initiated." Testing human creativity, the next few days tested Elias in ways he had never imagined. The rogue drones returned, more organized and numerous than before. But Elias did not panic. Unlike machines, humans adapt quickly, improvise, and make unpredictable choices. He discovered that by manipulating energy flows in unexpected sequences, he could confuse enemy targeting systems. He even used parts of the ship itself, rotating massive sections to block line of sight for the drones. Each success boosted his confidence. Each failure taught him new lessons. He realized that the Leviathan was not just a ship, it was a partner, a massive extension of his human creativity. Where the AI could calculate and predict, Elias could innovate. Where the drones followed patterns, he could break them. By the end of the week, the rogue fleet had retreated. The Leviathan remained unscathed. Elias stood on the bridge, looking out at the retreating dots of enemy drones. His hands were covered in sweat and grease, but his eyes shone with pride. "Humans adapt," he said aloud. "And we fight back." The AI's voice was softer now, almost contemplative. "Human adaptability extraordinary, prediction fails, cooperation effective." Elias laughed softly. "Thanks, you're learning too, huh?" First true command. After surviving the drone attacks, Elias realized that he had gained more than knowledge. He had earned command of the Leviathan. The ship responded to his instincts, his choices, and his creativity. He could feel the bond growing stronger every day. He tested navigation systems, plotting a course toward an unexplored sector of space. He activated life support and environmental controls, ensuring the ship could sustain long-term travel. Every adjustment, every small command, felt like a triumph. One night, as he rested briefly on a massive platform overlooking the engine room, he thought about how far he had come. A week ago, he had been a simple mechanic, overwhelmed by the size of the Leviathan. Now he moved with purpose, understanding systems that had once been impossible to comprehend. "This is only the beginning," he said to himself. "If I can survive the ship, I can survive the galaxy." The Leviathan pulsed softly in agreement, the hum of energy filling the cavernous halls. The AI spoke once more, its tone respectful. "Human potential acknowledged. You are master of this vessel." Elias smiled, feeling a surge of determination. He had awakened the Leviathan, but he had also awakened something within himself. The courage to lead, to explore, and to face the unknown. Foreshadowing greater challenges as the days passed, Elias knew the galaxy held dangers beyond rogue drones. There were entire fleets, pirates, and factions that would covet a ship like the Leviathan. But he was ready. The ship was no longer just a vessel of metal. It was a testament to human ingenuity, powered by the mind and courage of a single mechanic who refused to be intimidated. He spent his final hours of preparation reviewing the ship's capabilities. Weapons systems, navigation, communication, life support, and even hidden cloaking technology. He began understanding how each piece worked together. With the Leviathan under his command, the galaxy's vastness felt less intimidating and more like an opportunity. "This ship, it's alive," he said softly, looking out at the stars from the bridge. "And it listens to humans. That means we're not just survivors. We're masters of our own destiny." A faint pulse of energy ran through the Leviathan, as if agreeing. The ship had been dormant for decades, but under Elias it had awakened. And now it was ready for the adventures and challenges that awaited in the galaxy beyond. Elias Carter, human mechanic and unlikely hero, had proven one thing. Humans, small and unpredictable, could wield even the largest, most advanced technology and emerge victorious. Elias Carter stood on the bridge of the Aegis Leviathan, staring out at the endless darkness of space. The rogue drones were gone, scattered and broken, but Elias knew this was only the beginning. Stories of the Leviathan's power had spread quietly through the galaxy, and it was only a matter of time before someone, or something, tried to take it from him. The Leviathan hummed under his feet, its engines throbbing with latent energy. The AI's voice was calm but attentive. "Human, external threats significant. Your strategies unconventional, effective. Prepare for larger confrontation." Elias ran a hand through his hair. "Larger confrontation, huh? Well, I guess that's why humans exist. We adapt." He had learned something important in the past weeks. The Leviathan responded to human creativity in ways no machine or alien intelligence could predict. It wasn't just about following instructions or protocols. It was about improvisation, instinct, and courage. And now, the galaxy was about to test both him and the ship. The arrival of the Armada sensors lit up with a blinding intensity. Hundreds of ships, sleek and black, approached from the void. This was no random band of scavengers. This was an organized armada, a fleet designed to overpower even the largest starships. Elias' heart pounded, but he did not panic. "They want to fight," he muttered. "Well, let's give them one." He moved quickly, issuing commands with confidence. Shields rose in layers, energy flows rerouted to critical systems, and the weapon bays activated. The Leviathan's massive cannons slid into position, each one capable of destroying enemy ships with a single shot. "Engage evasive maneuvers," Elias ordered, "and remember, unpredictable is our advantage." The AI acknowledged silently. Understood, executing. But it did not interfere further. Elias had learned that the Leviathan allowed him freedom. Human intuition would decide the battle. The first strike, the enemy fleet advanced in tight formation. Their sensors were precise, their weapons powerful. Yet they did not anticipate the Leviathan's unconventional maneuvers. Elias directed the ship to rotate sections of the hull in unpredictable patterns, creating blind spots and confusing targeting systems. "Fire when ready," he shouted. The first volley of energy blasts erupted, striking enemy ships with devastating accuracy. But it was not precision alone that won the day, it was Elias' improvisation. He used energy pulses in ways no AI could have calculated, firing simultaneously from multiple angles, shifting the ship's orientation to create impossible trajectories. Enemy ships collided with one another, unable to adapt to a human commander who refused to follow predictable patterns. The AI's voice was calm, almost contemplative. "Human ingenuity surpasses expectation. Probability calculations fail." Elias grinned. Exactly. Humans don't follow rules, we make them. A personal test amid the chaos, Elias noticed one of the enemy ships breaking through the outer defenses, heading straight for the Leviathan's bridge. His heart leapt. This ship was designed for speed and precision, fast enough to outmaneuver the Leviathan's defenses. He acted instinctively. Using a combination of energy pulses and mechanical decoys, he created an illusionary fleet, tricking the enemy ship into targeting false coordinates. Then he rotated a section of the Leviathan's hull, causing the intruder to slam into the massive structure. Metal screeched, sparks flew, but the Leviathan remained unscathed. "Not today," Elias muttered, breathing heavily. The AI's voice was quiet but approving. Human creativity effective, survival probability increased. Elias realized then that survival was not about brute strength. It was about thinking beyond expectation, using unpredictability as a weapon and trusting human instinct, rallying human potential. The battle raged for hours. The Armada adapted, but Elias continued to innovate. He repurposed energy conduits to create temporary shields, rerouted power to engines for sudden bursts of speed, and even used gravity manipulation chambers to throw enemy ships off course. Each time the Leviathan moved, the enemy recalculated, only to be confounded by Elias' human creativity. The ship responded to him like an extension of his body, every system harmonizing with his decisions. By the end of the first day of battle, the enemy fleet was in disarray. Ships collided, weapons overloaded, and command signals became confused. Human ingenuity had turned the Leviathan into an unstoppable force, not because of size or firepower alone, but because it was guided by a human mind. Elias stood on the bridge, exhausted but exhilarated. This is what humans can do," he said quietly. "We survive, we adapt, and we conquer." The AI's voice was steady, almost reverent. "Human unpredictability defines supremacy. You are master of Leviathan and beyond." Victory and reflection. By the second day, the enemy armada had retreated. The Leviathan had survived unscathed, and Elias had proven that human intuition and courage could triumph over advanced technology and overwhelming numbers. He walked through the bridge, touching panels and consoles. Each hum of the Leviathan was a testament to his ingenuity and determination. The ship had recognized something it could not quantify. Humans were creative, adaptable, and unpredictable, and that unpredictability was their greatest weapon. Elias knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with factions, fleets, and dangers that had never before encountered a human commanding a ship like the Leviathan. But he felt ready. He activated the Leviathan's engines fully, feeling the enormous energy pulse through the hull. Lights swept through the corridors, systems harmonized, and the ship's AI seemed to exude approval. "Humans are remarkable," the AI said. "Unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of greatness." Elias smiled. "That's us, humans, small, fragile, but clever beyond measure." A new mission with the Armada defeated and the Leviathan fully awakened, Elias plotted a course toward an unexplored sector of space. He would need to prepare, explore, and maybe even fight again. But this time, he was not just a mechanic. He was a leader, a commander, and a symbol of human potential. He visited the ship's communications hub, sending messages to distant human colonies. "The Leviathan is alive. Humans command it. We can survive and we can thrive." Responses trickled back slowly, awe and disbelief in every transmission. Humans across the galaxy began to realize that their ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability were assets no machine or alien could match. Elias walked to the edge of the command bridge, looking at the endless stars stretching into infinity. The Leviathan, massive and alive, waited for his orders, and for the first time he felt truly empowered. "This galaxy," he whispered, "is ours to explore." And humans were just getting started. The Leviathan pulsed beneath him, alive and ready. The AI's voice, calm and almost proud, echoed, "Human, supreme potential realized. Adventure awaits." Elias Carter took a deep breath. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unknown, but he had the largest ship ever built and the sharpest mind among its crew. Humanity had triumphed once more, proving that even in a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations and massive fleets, a single human mind could change the course of history. And with the stars ahead of him, Elias smiled. He was ready for whatever came next.